Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Complete Human Podcast with your host,
Jana Breslin.
And Evan DeMarco. Today, we are talking about one of my favorite subjects. It's not sex. It's not drugs. It's not rock and roll. It is sleep.
Sleep. Such a good one.
Yeah.
So are you guys looking to optimize your sleep? Because we might have a solution for you. Deep Sleep by Complete Human is a fantastic product that Evan here, our very own Evan, has formulated. And it is fantastic. I'll tell you this. I have had sleep issues for a long time, the majority of my life, hormonal stuff, whatever, just, stress, many things. Deep Sleep has literally been a lifesaver for me. And I've noticed that not only am I sleeping better, but the ingredients within this product cognitively the next day have made me more sharp. And I really, really appreciate that. So there's a whole host of ingredients that is in this, but the reason why it works so well is because of its bioavailability, because of the formulation that we have. So what is that?
Yeah, so, obviously melatonin is a big part of that, but theanine, tryptophan, valerian root, and then we put that all in this really unique delivery matrix. And we oftentimes talk about this as the complete human biooptimization blend. But by pairing most of these ingredients with something called phosphatidylcholine, we really drive those ingredients into the cell. And in that, we have better bioavailability, better usage of those raw materials, and then better efficacy. And that's ultimately what we're after. Now, one of the fun things that I enjoyed about developing this product is the knowledge that phosphatidylcholine really has a unique cognitive benefit. It's not a stimulant. It's not caffeine. So as you're going to sleep, you're really activating certain parts of your brain. And in that, it really manifests in dreams. So I don't know about you, but when I take our product, my dreams are just freaking crazy.
It's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
They are good.
Yeah. Some of them are a little more adult than others.
Did that change from anything from before taking it?
No.
Exactly.
Now they're just more vivid.
I love that. So if you guys want to give Deep Sleep a try, you can get it with the code SLEEP50. You can get a buy one, get one for the enrollment and auto ship. So definitely take advantage of that sale. Also wanted to let you guys know and remind you that CompleteHuman.com has a whole host of information, blogs, articles, education that we've put together to really compartmentalize our education and knowledge over the years. And so highly recommend checking that out. And also want to remind you, and please ask of you, if you could please write reviews for us on our podcast. It helps us out in many ways. We love reading them. We love sharing them. And thank you very much. So
thank you very much.
Yes. Evan, we're going to get on to sleep here.
Yeah.
This is your topic.
This is my topic. And one of the things that I really want to talk about are what I call the stress sleep cycle today. That's going to be kind of the focus. So as I've been developing sleep products over the years and really trying to understand the mechanisms that lead to better sleep, I kind of came up with what I coined the stress sleep cycle. And we'll talk about that in a second. And the challenge with sleep really, as I was trying to understand how to do clinical research on it, is that there's all of these different factors that lead to sleep, right? There's sleep hygiene, and then there's the stress sleep cycle, and then there's, all of these host of other things. And so when we do clinical research, there's the Pittsburgh Standard Sleep Score, and that's kind of the measurement that we use, but it's not necessarily an accurate depiction of how people are sleeping. Now, luckily with Whoop, we've got better diagnostic data on how we sleep, and we can start to unravel this stress sleep cycle, and that's what we're about to jump into here. So let's talk about the stress sleep cycle, because this is one of the most important things that we need to tackle. So let me ask you this. Okay. What's the first thing that you or most people do when they wake up in the morning?
Check our phone.
Exactly. Ding, 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 ding. Survey says, psh, you get 5 points.
Smack you in the face.
Yeah, not maybe, if you like that kind of thing.
It's nice every once in a while.
Yeah.
Just a little, keep it frisky.
We're going to get emails on that one. So now remember the days before your phone, right? Mm-hmm. We're all kind of the digital age, but I'm a little bit older than you. And I remember waking up before I had a cell phone and making some coffee and reading the paper. Does anybody even know what that is anymore? Did you ever have a paper route?
Yes.
Yeah. Getting ink on your hands or using silly putty to get into,
right.
We had patterns, and those patterns were designed in a very unique way that allowed us to slowly begin our day. And so we didn't have some of the issues that cell phones have brought to the equation. Now, here's the crazy thing. based off of the research, an alarming percentage of people, and I mean above 50% of the U.S. population surveyed, say that's the first thing that they do when waking up, even before going to the bathroom. So that's scary. Like, you're rolling over and, you're checking your phone. Now, a lot of people will utilize their phone as an alarm clock, and that makes perfect sense, right? But then alarm clock goes off, and then all of a sudden, what are you doing? You start scrolling through social media. You start hitting, your emails. You start doing all the things that begin your day. And really, what happens when we do that, right? So let's talk about the physiology or the biochemical reactions that happen. So we know that social media are pings of dopamine. So as you start scrolling, you're just hitting your dopamine like lever. You are Pavlov's dog just going through that. Well,
emails, texts,
emails,
Instagram notifications, whatever. You're triggering that.
You're
immediately.
triggering. Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, there's a little bit of a physical or a physiological difference between social media and email. Social media is pings of dopamine, right? Like, you're looking for that high. And Mark Zuckerberg and the rest of the crew over at Meta and Instagram, they've conditioned us to do that. So now all of a sudden, dopamine is kind of the predominant chemical instead of cortisol. See, what happens when we wake up first thing in the morning is that we should be immersing ourselves in light. We're going to get to this in a second. And then shutting off our melatonin switch, turning on our cortisol switch. And that's what gets us out of bed. That's what starts our day. But now we're not using cortisol, we're using dopamine. So we are just crack addicts at the wheel. Now, let's say you're not like, let's say you're me and you go right to email, right? Well, email usually brings a different sort of chemical reaction. That's adrenaline, because most of the time we're dealing with problems, especially me, right? It's like manufacturing problems in Europe. This customer is pissed off at this. This is going on here. So now all of a sudden it's not necessarily dopamine, it's adrenaline. Either way, we are now flying out of bed. We're in a reactive state instead of a proactive state. Interestingly enough, there's one of these research studies that I just read, and there's a very interesting correlation between the levels of dopamine first thing in the morning and metabolic flexibility. So that's insulin resistance, insulin sensitivity. We've talked a lot about that. So we know that dopamine is not a chemical that we should be hitting our brain and our body with first thing in the morning. So again, we either have dopamine or we have adrenaline coursing through our system. So, what happens, right? Get out of bed, you race downstairs, you throw back, you slam your coffee, you rush to the office if you still go to one of those, or you rush to the office in the house and you start dealing with problems. And then this is where the sleep stress cycle really kind of kicks in, because most people have to get through their day, right? They're not conditioned to proactively embrace their day. They're conditioned to get through their day. So they get to the office if they work in one, and it's another cup of coffee. It's stress. It's all of these things. It's a poor lunch. It's the 3 p.m. double caramel macchiato thing. And then it's like, then you're stuck in traffic on the way home. Now, most people historically or statistically, they don't go from a work to the gym. They go home, and then what do? They completely immerse themselves in more blue light. So you're sitting in front of the TV. You're watching your tablet. You're playing video games. You're doing all of the things that continue to flood your system with blue light. And again, blue light's not necessarily bad. It's kind of been bastardized, but it does have a time and a place. And the time and the place is not first thing in the morning or last thing at night. So what happens is that exposure to this blue light throughout the day lowers the levels of melatonin in your system. That's what keeps you alert and active during the day. Now, our circadian rhythms are based off of the sunrise and the sunset. So you wake up in the morning, the sun, which is still our largest source of blue light, wakes you up. One of the best things you can do first thing in the morning is just get naked and run down the street. Expose yourself to as much blue light as possible. We are not responsible if you guys get arrested. I'm sorry. And then as the sun goes down, that natural decrease in blue light, that natural decrease in light is what turns that melatonin switch in our brain back on, which allows us to prep for bed. So if we're constantly flooding our eyes with blue light from devices, from phones, from tablets, from anything, we're preventing that natural rhythm from taking place.
So basically expose your eyes to natural light as soon as you can when you wake up.
Yes.
And what I've noticed and we did one podcast with Dr. John Lawrence, who discusses a lot about melatonin.
Mm-hmm.
Evan and I went through this period of time where we put melatonin suppositories in our butts.
Yes.
And we experimented with that, and holy wow, the sleep was insane. Like the most deep sleep you ever could get. But waking up in the morning, you're a little groggy, obviously, because you just put like 150 milligrams of melatonin
up your keister.
Up there. So
up there.
But what he said was, if you can expose your eyes to natural light as soon as you can, right when you wake up, if you have any sort of grogginess from sleeping or from melatonin, it will shut that off immediately, and you will get back to your normal, feeling awake and everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so here's the natural question, right? Well, if blue light from the sun is really not that much different from blue light from your devices, what's the difference? And then we come back to that dopamine and that adrenaline.
The chemicals.
You're not getting a dopamine ping by going and staring at the sun or, being naked and, running down the street. You might get a dopamine ping from that.
Maybe a little more adrenaline.
More adrenaline, especially as the cops or a dog are chasing you. But yeah, anyway, so that's the big difference there. Now, so let's say that, you get home, you eat your dinner, you spend some time in front of the TV, and then you get ready for bed. What's the last thing that most people do?
Check their phone again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they turn off the TV as they're about to put their head on the pillow. Yeah.
So survey says that actually most people check their phone before they go to bed. Social media, email, some type of thing. So now we're back to the same neurochemical, neurotransmitters, dopamine, adrenaline.
Mm-hmm.
And think about it this way, right? You're laying in bed, you're feeling a little groggy, you're scrolling through Instagram, and what do you see? It's like ad cat video, someone from CrossFit doing something at CrossFit. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there's my ex with his new partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens then? It's not just dopamine, it's adrenaline. Like you've just now, because of the emotional nature of that, you've just activated your sympathetic parasympathetic response. This is biochemically no different than if you were being chased through the jungle by a tiger. So is it easy to go to bed right after that? Hell no. Now, do you see your ex with their new person every single night? Hopefully not, or you have a lot of exes, in which case that's a whole other podcast we need to address. But that really is the stress sleep cycle. And if you do that one day, not a big deal. If you do that for a week, not a big deal. But we are so conditioned in today's society to do that every single day. So the stress sleep cycle is now a epidemic. It is a pandemic. And when we look at some of the data that's coming out about sleep quality, this is going to kill a hell of a lot more people than COVID ever would or will.
I even think about like caffeine too, right? A lot of people do have, their morning cup of coffee or even like a pick-me-up coffee later on in the afternoon, but it takes hours and hours and hours for caffeine to leave your system. So if you are having caffeine later on in the afternoon too, of course that's going to mess with your sleep.
Yeah. It's absolutely going to mess with your sleep. And so now here's what's happening, right, is we're taking in that caffeine and then, we think that we're awake because of the caffeine, but we're actually so tired because of our lifestyle. Now, when I say that it's going to kill us, it will kill us. I mean, there's a rampant increase in the number of sleep-deprived traffic accidents. There's a number of incidences of like, people they're so tired, they take an Ambien and then they go drive down the street or they cook something and burn the house down. We're going to talk about those things in a second. But now what happens as our sleep becomes worse and worse and worse? And there's a whole host of things that I want to jump in here. But sleep deprivation is absolutely a culprit for diminished sex drive, depression, mood disorders. Did you ever see the movie Fight Club?
No.
Oh, he can't sleep and then he becomes a schizophrenic and starts an underground boxing ring. That didn't end well for anybody.
Okay.
Cellular aging. You ever seen someone who doesn't sleep well and their face starts to look like a leather belt? And not like a nice Gucci one, but like one that you'd buy at Walmart. Weight gain, absolutely huge one. And you will get, boys and girls, this. If you have a poor night's sleep, pay attention to your hunger cravings. Like there's something.
Oh yeah.
Like when you don't sleep well, you're like, just feed me, some more.
Mm-hmm.
Cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. But here's the scary one: Alzheimer's and dementia. There was a research study that was done on gamers, professional gamers, guys and girls that are sitting in a chair for 16, 20 hours a day, massive amounts of caffeine, Red Bulls, stimulants, poor diets, no exercise, no activity, no exposure to natural light. These people, when studied, were actually starting to show formations of beta amyloid plaques and tangles in their 30s. Now, the beta amyloid plaques and tangles are the things that lead to Alzheimer's and dementia. In their 30s.
How do you test for that? I'm so curious how you do that.
You can do brain scans.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this brings us to something really cool, which is the lymphatic system, lymphatic system.
With a G.
G. Yeah, not lymphatic, but glymphatic. And what that is during the deepest levels of sleep, when we're sleeping, especially like stage 4 or 5 in REM sleep, cerebral spinal fluid actually works its way up into our brain and goes spin cycle. And it actually starts to pull those beta amyloid plaques and tangles out and then, basically process them through a traditional lymphatic drainage system. So without sleep, we are actually promoting the accumulation of the things that lead to Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. So that's a scary, scary thing. Now, we know that blue light does that. We know that, all of the things that we've just talked about, like no exposure to sunlight, no activity, all of those things, that all leads to that. So that's the epidemic, right? We're not sleeping, and within that is going to be a rampant increase in cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, a lot of those type of diseases.
Scary.
Very scary.
Especially at the ages that we are starting to see that at, younger and younger.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously we, devices with children, it's, it's just more and more these days, more games, more, more TV shows, just more.
Yeah.
More tablets. Like it's catered to make them want more of that.
Well, and keep in mind, adults are still fall victim.
Of course.
We know that social media is an addiction. We know that porn is an addiction. So all of the digital interfaces that we see right now are designed to do one thing, and that's keep you hooked. And in that, you are negatively impacting your sleep. You're absolutely increasing the stress sleep cycle. And in that, you're perpetuating a whole host of physiological ailments, disease, including Alzheimer's and dementia.
This is what kind of makes me nervous about metaverse. And the whole, that's literally a whole entire other episode, but, I just think about how much this will be negatively perpetuated with that. So
we're going to have some issues. Let's talk a little bit about sleep myths, because this is one of my favorite things. So how many hours a night are you supposed to sleep?
We're told 8, right?
8.
And why is that, Evan?
I'm glad you asked.
Yes.
No, actually, so the 8 hours of sleep came out of the Industrial Revolution. So when people first came to America and they settled in cities, and then they ultimately started to migrate into the Midwest and the West Coast to farm and ranch, they were on their own natural circadians. But as the Industrial Revolution kicked off and more people came back to the cities to work in like the steel mills and construction and all those type of things, basically what corporations needed to do was incentivize a way for people to break down their entire day. So it was 8 hours of work, 8 hours of family time, 8 hours of sleep. So you've got 3 times 8 is 24. But here's the interesting thing, is that sleep cycles are actually about 90 minutes, pretty consistently about 90 minutes. So you can't do 8 hours divided by 90 minutes. It's actually like 5.333 hours. We'll talk about sleep inertia in a second. So one of the things that we really tell people in kind of prepping for healthy sleep is know which one of your 90-minute sleep cycles you need to be in and then work backwards from there. We'll get to that in a second. The snooze button. That's a big one.
Oh, that's a huge one for me.
Yeah, those are bad. Those are really, really bad. That's called sleep inertia. And so what happens is, you're in the middle of deep sleep. You've got a great dream going on because you took complete human deep sleep. I don't know what your great dreams are, but mine usually involve you and, well, we'll just cut that from there. And so, so you wake up like blah, 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 and then you hit the snooze button and then you go back. Well, so you got cortisol, just to get you out of bed, but then you go back and so your melatonin switch starts to turn back on to get you back into that snooze. Well, and then same thing, blah, blah, blah. So now your body's just so confused. It's melatonin, it's cortisol. So sleep inertia is something that happens when we hit that snooze button. Don't do it, right? Like if you know that you have to be up at 5:30, wake up at 5:30 and
not just wake up, but actually get out of bed.
Get out of bed, yeah.
And don't look at your phone.
Get out of bed.
That is something that I know I need to work on because I am usually, I like to sleep. It's hard for me to get up in the morning. So I hit snooze all the time, like 5 times. I'm hitting it. And that is a habit I know I need to break.
Yeah. It's really bad.
Yeah.
Here's another sleep myth that, we always used to, I think most people know this by now, but booze. You've always heard the term nightcap. Mm-hmm. Well, our complements of our Whoop data, we know that every time we have a drink, our sleep, it could be
so
one
bad.
drink.
One drink. It just completely changes your data. And you can tell it is not good.
It's not good.
Yeah.
One of the other big sleep myths that I think we've uncovered is that you can catch up on sleep. If you go 3 or 4 days and your sleep's bad, well, you can just sleep for 10 hours and that'll make up for it. And the truth is that's not the case. So we have to start to implement healthy lifestyle patterns that allow us to sleep in enough time that we don't go off the cliff and start ending up with some of these negative issues. Sleep pills are okay. Ambien, any of these pharmaceutical products.
They're okay?
Hell no, that's the myth. Don't touch them.
The myth is that they're okay.
The myth is that they're okay.
Okay.
They are not. Anything where the warning is that you might accidentally drive a car and not be aware of it, that's some pretty bad juju.
Right.
So let's stay away from those.
Yeah.
Now, here's one of the interesting sleep myths that still is kind of, science is still a little, the jury's out on this one, is that napping is good for you. I know people who love a good power nap.
Yeah. People either love them or totally against it.
Yeah.
I'm the against.
I am too. But
not that I'm against it. It's just I don't feel good when I nap.
No.
I feel when I wake up from a nap, I feel like I am ill, like I'm sick, and I don't feel correct at all. I'd rather just go to bed early that night.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have people that I've talked to who love naps. They can do a 15 or 20 minute power nap. Here's my suggestion on this one. Love it or hate it, just really recognize how you feel on it. But what we found is that napping, if done properly, or meditation, if done properly, is very similar to a nap. So there's a lot of great apps out there that you can do a guided meditation. So if you're feeling really, tired, go sit outside for a little bit, do a guided meditation, and you might actually start to, feel the same benefits as you would from a nap. Okay, so how do you break the stress sleep cycle? Now, for years I've talked to biohackers who just do a bunch of crazy shit for this stuff. Whether it's shoving 150 milligrams of melatonin up your keister.
It is fun, though.
It is fun. But so biohacking is not the answer. Biooptimization is. And biooptimization, as we've defined it, is really this constant feedback loop where we use a solid foundation and small corrections to achieve lasting results. There is no quick fix for any of this, especially in sleep. There's no quick fix for anything. You can't quick fix your way out of a bad diet or poor lifestyle choices or bad sleep or anything like that. You got to do the work. And that's what biooptimization is. In the realm of sleep, getting rid of the things that we talked about, like booze, Ambien, blue light, all of those things, that's first and foremost. We have to create healthy sleep patterns.
Yeah. I want to tell a story. We received a message from a customer who purchased Deep Sleep, and it was actually a negative review. And I want to bring this up because I wanted to help them figure out why they weren't sleeping so well in the first place. So, he's taking Deep Sleep but not sleeping that well. I'm like, okay, well, what's your lifestyle like? What's your stress level? What are you avoiding blue light at night? Are you sleeping with the temperature low? Do you have, loud neighbors? Just let's figure it out. He mentioned that very stressed, deals with depression, doesn't take, watches TV late at night, just all the things, right? So you cannot cover up or band-aid your sleep with supplements, drugs like that. You have to also address the start of it. You have to address the underlying issues there and make sure that is optimized. And you cannot just expect that supplements, drugs, etc. will all of a sudden just make that okay to be able to do both. You can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, right? Because that is the essence of biooptimization. It is those small corrections. There's no silver bullet for all of this. You can't watch YouTube all night long and then take a pill and think that your sleep is going to be great. So we actually advocate for deep sleep at the end of these biooptimization things, these protocols. So let's talk a little bit about what we can do. Now, we know that we need to, let's just begin with, the first part of our day. If you have to get up with an alarm clock, my big suggestion is buy one that's not your phone. Charge the damn thing in another room.
Yeah. Keep it in the kitchen or whatever, just a completely different room.
Different room. Yep.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about the EMF and all of that stuff that goes along with that, but that's a conversation for another time. It's just simply the compulsive need. There was a survey that was done of millennials who it was 23% admitted to waking up in the middle of the night to check their phone. That is an addiction. So charge the damn thing in a different room. Go to Amazon, spend the $4 that it's probably going to cost you to get a good alarm clock, and then utilize that. And then the first thing that you want to do is don't hit the snooze button. Get out of bed. Go get some natural sunlight. Sit outside, have a glass of water, then have your coffee if you're going to drink coffee. And this is where I say me time is so important, because if you're proactively starting the day with, meditation, journaling, reading, whatever it is that you need to do, a throwback to what we used to do 30 years ago, you've proactively started your day. You're not reactive. So you're not really succumbing to the chemical issues that come from that get out of bed, check the phone type of thing. It's not dopamine. It's not adrenaline. It's a proactive approach to every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the interesting things that I found in all of the research, and I talked about this in a book that I wrote, 30 Days to a Better Brain, was sex first thing in the morning. Now, I'm not just saying this to say this, although I am saying this to say this because it's me, but there's actually a huge cognitive benefit to sex first thing in the morning.
Is it sex or is it orgasm?
Yes.
Okay. Good to know.
Yes. Both. But there was a big correlation between sex in the morning and cognitive health. And so we know that, like, if you're flooding your brain with feel-good chemicals, not the reactive ones from dopamine, but the proactive ones, the oxytocin that comes from, companionship and, and I think the jury still might be out on whether or not masturbation actually fits into this, but it's, sex first thing in the morning. And the thing we know with men is that your testosterone levels are highest first thing in the morning and around 3 p.m. So I also tell people, is like, if you're looking for a better brain, sex first thing in the morning and 3 p.m. Try to work that into your day. Exercise. That's the next big one. You have to exercise. Brain-derived neurotropic factor. We've talked a lot about that. We've talked a lot about the inherent immune boosting benefits of exercise. But when we start to factor that into sleep, we know that there's just so much that goes into it. So exercise. Most of the things that we talk about, they kind of leap into all of these different indications.
I was just about to say.
So,
yeah,
we're not prescribing anything that's specific to sleep. To sleep, we're prescribing something or recommending something that is specific to health, and in that, we know that our sleep is going to improve.
Right. Yes, when you improve the lifestyle as a whole, every element of that lifestyle also improves, which includes your sleep.
Yeah, which is biooptimization.
Absolutely.
The final one is something called sleep hygiene. And sleep hygiene is really nothing more than doing the same thing every single night at the same time. So if you know that you need to be in bed by 9 o'clock so that you can wake up at the appropriate time the next day, 90 minutes before that, at 7:30, shut the TV off, charge the phone in a different room, get into the same pattern of, if it's a shower, if it's brushing your teeth, whatever pattern is that you need. Get into bed, meditate, journal, read a book, whatever it is that you need to do. But as your body becomes conditioned to that sleep hygiene, then your sleep just improves that much more. And I actually spoke to a doctor of a sleep clinic on this one, and he said one of the first things that they focus on before getting people into pharmacologicals like Ambien is just focus on sleep hygiene. They found that there was like 70% of these sleep problems can be cured just by that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's powerful.
Yeah, your brain just knows. And so when your brain knows, it starts to turn on that melatonin switch. It starts to shut off the cortisol switch. It basically says you're going to sleep whether you like it or not. And that's actually something you can do with your kids, ladies and gentlemen. So if you, like me, have a young kid, practicing sleep hygiene with them is essential for healthy sleep habits.
I've actually heard of families turning off all the lights, only using candles or whatever because you're completely eliminating any sort of like lights, LED, any of those blue lights, basically.
Yeah.
And that helps keep your kids a little more suppressed, like just the energy down, and gets them ready for sleep too. That's another idea.
Yeah. Then you can all gather around the Bible and
gather around
the Bible, read some verses. No, that's actually a great one. And for those people who, need to be up, there's obviously the blue light blocking glasses. There's some of the red light ones, which actually start to, I think have been clinically proven to activate more melatonin. So there are some techniques that we can use to begin that process.
But start with the basics.
And most of the time you're going to find you don't need a $300 pair of glasses to get into bed. You just need to shut off your fucking phone.
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions on the stress sleep cycle?
I don't think so.
All
I
right.
think that's it. That's good on my end.
Cool. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you do have questions, we'd love to hear them. So don't be afraid to message us. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Are we on TikTok?
Yeah.
Okay. We're on TikTok.
We have a page on there. I don't know how often it's updated, but we have a page.
We have a page. I don't know what we do on there, but we have a page. We have LinkedIn. We have, you can definitely find me on MySpace.
I'd hope not. I'd hope you're more evolved than that.
You know what? I'm too busy sleeping.
That's true. Oh, love it. Love a good night's sleep. Well, thank you for these tips. These are great. It reminds me of what I need to do as well to optimize my sleep and health.
Yeah, it's not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. It's just practice, and biooptimization is that. It's small corrections that equal big changes over the long run. And let's acknowledge, as we said, that the biggest issue with sleep is cognitive issues. So if we really start to tackle those things now, then we're not going to have to worry about severe cognitive decline early on. And when I say early on, like 40s, 50s, 60s, long before historically we've ever seen those.
Yeah.
So get to bed, practice these things. Let us know if you have any questions. Definitely try out the deep sleep. We love it. I formulated it for myself first. That's the only way that I formulate so that you guys get the very best in the market out there. And remember that with code SLEEP50, it's buy one, get one with enrollment and auto ship. So you can share it with your family, your friends, so everybody can be sleeping, which means that we can all look better. Because as we found out, if we don't sleep, we all look like Walmart belts.
The leather belt.
Yes.
The Walmart leather belt.
The Walmart leather belt, which, no. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another edition of the Complete Human Podcast with your host,
Jana Breslin.
and Evan DeMarco. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.